Hi everyone, it's Christine here from Ever After Paper Crafts, and I am super excited today to be sharing with you this card that I made using a gorgeous, relatively new image from Mama Elephant. And this is the finished card, and I'm going to show you how to do the coloring today on this particular image. This stamp comes from the relatively new Mama Elephant Organic Blooms stamp set. So you can see it's got a gorgeous large flower image here, couple small flowers, and then some lovely, beautiful, fun sentiments with it as well. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that I did to create this, this image is to emboss it with some gold embossing powder. So I went ahead and did that before coming on camera just to save a little bit of time. All you do to do that is I use my Misty. You don't have to, you can use an acrylic block. And I have my piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I'm using Bristol Smooth because it works, in my opinion, the best with the Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers, which is what I'm going to use to color this with. So all you do is you ink the image up with your Versamark ink, which is your watermark ink. Sprinkle on some gold embossing powder. Mine happens to be from Stampin' Up. You can use whatever you have in your stash, and then use your heat gun to dry it. This just gives it a fun look, a shimmery kind of look, and also helps keep the color contained within each petal. So let's go ahead and get started. I did not use very many Zig markers for this, and I will go call them out as I use them. But I want to show you some techniques that I kind of learned going along as I colored this image. So let me zoom in just a little bit to help you see the coloring a little bit better. All right, so I'm going to start with this flower on the right, this one right here, which is this one on the finished card. And to create this color, I used two markers. I used yellow and I used pink, and that's it. So what I did was I started with the pink, and I put it, and I go petal by petal. So this video is probably going to be a little bit on the long side because I really want to show you how I do this coloring, because I really think you guys will like these markers if you give them a shot. And again, you can buy them individually, and you can get just a few colors to create some gorgeous looks. So as you can see on this first petal here, I've put down some pink, just scribbled it down, literally just scribbled it down right at the bottom of the petal where I feel like it's going to be the darkest. Now I'm going to take my yellow, and I'm just kind of going to scribble on right above that pink and a little bit into the pink. Just a little bit, back and forth. Now, because I've taken a light color, i.e. my yellow, and put it in a darker color, the pink, you're not going to hurt your marker, but you want to kind of take some paper towel and scribble off the yellow marker. Now that I've done that, this yellow marker is ready to go again, so the next time I use it, it will come out yellow. And then I'm going to take my water brush, and I'm going to let it do all the work. And I'm going all the way back to the pink and blending through the yellow and pulling that color up. And so what I'm getting here is a really neat peachy kind of look. What I love about these markers is they're watercolor markers, and they really do act like watercolor paints almost, as if you were painting, which I've never been good at. And so doing it this way, I actually kind of feel like an artist, and it's sort of a neat feeling, kind of a cheater way, I guess, to feel really artistic, but I love it. And so by mixing the pink and the yellow, I've gotten this really kind of peachy look here, which hopefully you can see on camera. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep doing this with this particular flower. I'm going to go to this petal here now, and I'm going to scribble that pink on again, just at the base of the petal, where I feel like it's going to be the darkest. Then I'm going to take the yellow, scribble right on top, pull that pink up a little bit, and then scribble just a little bit above it as well. Wipe off the pink off my yellow marker onto my paper towel, and then use my water brush to pull the colors up. And you can still see the pink at the base, and it's beautiful. You can see kind of streaks of yellow, and then you get this peachy look towards the top. And it's just, in my opinion, it's really pretty, and it kind of looks like a flower petal would look in real life, because of course if you're looking at a real flower, it's not going to have uniform color. It's going to have kind of different layers of color, which is what makes flowers so beautiful. So hopefully this is showing up, and you can kind of see the different variations of color that I'm getting. Now I'm going to next do the bottom of this particular petal right here. I'm going to do the same thing. Putting some pink down, then taking my yellow and just sort of scribbling a little bit down into the pink and then outward. Clean off that yellow marker. Take my water brush, and this water brush does all the hard work for you by just pulling that beautiful color and mixing it together, almost like a painter's palette would when you're mixing your paints, when you're doing actual watercoloring. It's just lovely. Lovely, lovely. Now I'm going to do the same thing to this tiny little petal here, which is kind of tipping upwards. Put the yellow down a little bit over top of that pink. Clean the yellow brush off. And there's your petal. And then let's do this larger petal over here. As you can see, it comes all the way down and around and up here as well. So I'm going to work on this one in little pieces. So I'm going to do this portion first. Whoops, just put a little pink there, but that's okay because you'll see it'll get blended out in a moment. Putting the yellow down. Oops, clean the pink off that yellow marker. And then the water brush. Take your water brush, pull that color up. And there you have that portion of the petal. Now, I'm going to turn this just a little bit so I can see it a little bit better and not get my head in the way. And we're going to do this petal right here. And I'm going to think that right here, as the petal's kind of dipping underneath itself, it's going to be darkest. And then, so I'm going to lay my pink down there, scribble a little bit of yellow, a little tiny bit on top of the pink, and then above the pink. Clean that marker off, take my water brush, and color it. Pull that color up. All right, and then for my final step, and I'm just going in and kind of fixing some of these lines a little bit here. I'm doing this very quickly for the purposes of the video, but I think you guys kind of are getting the idea. At least I hope so. I hope I'm making sense. And then for the middle here of the flower, I just took some yellow and brushed it on and then used my water brush to kind of soften it a little bit. Okay, and there we have our first flower. Now to me, that looks really good, but I wanted to add just a little bit more boldness to the flower. So I took one more color, and this is a wine red, and I actually did this to all three blooms on this flower. You want to be very careful when using this because you don't want to do away with all the pretty shading you've just created. I just want to create a few darker shadows. So I'm taking this wine red and just putting it in just a tiny few places. You can see I have a little bit there, I have a little bit here, here, and here, just a tiny little bit. And I'm just going to take my water brush and blend that red into my petal. And all that does is kind of deepen up a few areas to create just a little bit more of a shadow. And it's still, if you're very frugal with it, it will still maintain the shading that you've already accomplished and you've already laid down. So here I put it in 3 places on the first petal that we did, and I'm just kind of blending that out so that those few areas are darker, and then kind of pull it back in. And so as you can see, we still have our shading, and it's just a tiny, tiny bit darker. On this petal here, I'm going to put it in 2 places, just there and there. Be very, very light when doing this. And again, you totally don't have to do this step at all. It was beautiful before. Like I said, I just wanted a little tiny bit darker. This one I'm going to put in 2 places. Put a little bit right here and a little bit down here. And I'm going to take my water brush and just pull that color up. So those 2 places that I put it are going to have a slightly deeper shadow. And then the rest of our petal is still going to be beautifully shaded with the multiple shades that we were able to create before. Same with this petal. I put it in 2 places, down here and over here. And I'm just going to, in a circular motion, pull that red in and then just blend it out. And you will see you still have the beautiful colors that you created before and just slightly darker where I've put the red. And I'm going to, on this last petal to do, I'm going to put it in 2 places, use my water brush and blend it in. And there you have it. So that is our finished flower. And I think it's lovely. I really do. It definitely shows shading as it goes from light to dark on the various petals, so it gives it that pop feeling, and it's lovely. And we've also created some unique colors by blending the yellow and the pink together. That's actually it's not a color that's available in the markers, so we were able to use these like watercolor paints almost to create new palettes of color, which I love doing. Let me bring back the original card. So this is the petal that we just did. As you can see, this petal is exactly the same as this one. So let's go ahead and I'm just gonna do a few petals on this one because I think you guys are hopefully getting the idea. I'm just going to do just a couple just to save some time for purposes of the video here. And I'm going to scribble on some pink, grab my yellow, scribble that, a little bit on top of the pink, a little bit inward, and then use my water brush to pull those colors out. And as you can see here, I was lighter on this one. It was a little bit lighter on this particular petal than I was on the first flower that we did. And it gives it more of a peachy look as opposed to this one, which has more of a peach orange. So just by varying the amount of color that I put on, I can almost completely change the color of the flower. So here I put just a little tiny bit of pink, whereas on this flower I put pink all over. Here I'm just putting the pink a few places in the middle and on each end, then scribbling on some of that yellow, and then taking my water brush and pulling that color upwards. So for this particular flower, this particular petal, as you'll see in a moment when I'm done pulling the water up with the water brush, it's a much lighter peachy look to it, and that's simply because I changed how much of both colors I put down. So if you can see that there, it's much lighter than this flower, and that is so cool how you can get, I think it's so cool how you can get two completely different looks with the same two markers. Love it, love it, love it. So I'm going to stop on this flower, and I'm going to show you how I did the top flower quickly here, which is a pink. I used two colors for this. Whoops, not that one. I used pink and light pink. And then I also went back in with a little bit of that wine red, which I showed you on the first flower, and I'll show you that here as well. So I love this combination. I have another video that I did with a Simon Says Stamp floral image that I will link to below, where I did another pink flower. And so I encourage you to check that one out as well. It's a little more detailed on the pink, whereas this video kind of focuses on blending other colors as well. That one shows a lot more detail on how I blended the pink. So I encourage you to check that out if you really like this color combination. But we're doing it exactly the same, just two different markers. We're using pink and light pink. I put the pink rather down first, then I scribbled the light pink a little bit over top and then a little bit inward, and now I'm using my water brush to pull the color upwards. And as you can see, you have shading. You have dark, and it's fading up into light pink as you get towards the top of the petal. So I'm just going to keep going here. I'm going to put some pink here and here on this next petal. Take my light pink, blend it out just a little bit with the light pink marker, and then take my water brush and blend those two piles of color together to create a nicely shaded petal. And now we're going to do this petal. Same idea. A little bit of pink, a little bit of light pink, and then your water brush does all the work. Now if you don't have a water brush, that's okay. You can use a regular paintbrush and just dip it in water, and it will work the same way and pull that color out for you. Alright, let's do this petal up here next. Let me make sure I'm still in the frame. Let's see, we'll put some here and here. And you can also vary the amount of color that you put down, like I was talking about with that other petal before. Within the same flower, try putting a little bit less of the pinks down and have a little more water and see what that does. And it's very beautiful. It's a lighter, you get kind of a lighter tint with the darker elements that pop out. So it's just so fun to play with these. I really can't recommend these markers enough. I just love them. And then of course you can also get different variations in your pink. You can just do one color, which I show you in that other video I mentioned a moment ago with the Simon Says stamp images, and it's beautiful. You can do dark pink and light pink for a more kind of bold variation in color. So there's and then you can just do a light pink, which has a lot of white to it. Just using the light pink in your water brush, it's beautiful. So there's all different kinds of combinations you can get with very little markers, with very few markers rather. So you can definitely try these markers out and get some great results inexpensively by just purchasing a few markers, which is a great alternative. I love my Copic markers. I still use my Copic markers in my craft room, but the one downside that I find with Copics is you have to create, you know, for example, one hair color or, you know, one flower petal. I have to have 3 or 4 markers to create the shading that I want. And that is not the case with these zigs. I can get away with one marker and a water brush and have a beautifully shaded image. So that's definitely a pro in my mind for these zig markers. They obviously work. They work different. They are different properties than Copics. They work differently than Copics. You have to kind of play with them to get the hang of them. It's not like coloring with Copic markers, but it's not hard by any stretch of the imagination. It's definitely not hard to get the hang of these markers. There was a slight learning curve, but it really wasn't bad at all. And I think that the end result is just beautiful. Like I said earlier, I really feel like an artist at the end of the day, and that's a great feeling, even though these tools are really doing all the work and I'm just kind of scribbling color on. It really is a neat feeling to feel like I'm, you know, being artistic and actually creating beautiful art. So as I'm blabbering along here, I'm just adding darker pink, which is actually called pink. It's just called pink on the is the marker color, and my light pink, like I've been doing, to various areas. I'm just scribbling it on there. I'm scribbling the light pink next to it and slightly into it and then next to it to pull that darker pink out. And then I'm taking my water brush and pulling the colors together out into the open white space, and that's what gives me my shading. The water brush really does all the work for you once you get the marker colors laid down. Okay, so there's a very quickly colored pink flower for you. Now I just want to quickly show you how I did the greenery, and I'm just going to color one leaf. I used one color for all of the greenery that you see here, and that is light green. This is my favorite to use, and I'm just going to color, let's just do this one because it's a small leaf here. I'm just going to color this leaf right here. So I kind of just scribbled some of the marker onto the bottom and then down the middle, where it's kind of usually darker in the middle of a leaf. And then I'm going to use my water brush to pull the color up to the rest of the white space in the leaf. So super, super easy to do. This is a larger space, the leaf is, so you might find that you have to squeeze your water brush or add just a little bit more color, water rather, if you're using a paintbrush, to get the color to spread a little bit more. It's a lot easier in smaller spaces. Sometimes in the larger spaces you do have to add a little bit more water, simply because, or more color even, whichever way you want to go, simply because it's just a larger area and it just takes a little bit more to spread all that color around. But here I didn't have to do that. I was able to get all the color in. And see how beautiful that is, that you get the different shades there. You almost get 3 colors sometimes from just one marker. It's really neat. And now I want to show you how I did the little tiny flowers that I did, and I just used one marker for those, and that is blue. And I'm just going to do one very quickly. And it's just the same idea that we've been doing. I scribbled a little bit of blue at the bottom and then used my water brush to pull that up. Super, super simple. And these are very small areas as well, so you probably won't have to get a lot of water to make that color flow. So there's the little blue flower, and I just did that for every single little blue flower there. So I did all of this just using about 5 or 6 marker colors and a water brush. Super, super easy. The last thing that I did, let me bring back over the original card, and I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up or not, but I will have a link to my blog post below in the description box of this video that will have some close-up photographs which should show this if it's not picking up on camera. But I have a blue highlight kind of just that goes all the way around the flower, and that's just because it just adds a little bit of interest, and also it doesn't look like the flowers are just kind of floating in air. They're kind of grounded, and for that I simply use light blue. Now I would recommend waiting for this to dry before you would do this, and even so, even once it's dry, you still have to be very careful, because if you get water from the marker or from your water brush into what you've already colored, it will reactivate and will start flowing again, and you don't want that. But all you do is I just very carefully took this marker and just literally outlined the entire image, and I went in pieces, so I went very slowly, and I just took it kind of a little bit at a time, piece by piece. So I stopped there, for example, and then I take my water brush and just pull that color out to kind of give it a faded look. So I just pull it out. I'm not going out to, it's not like I'm going out like I was doing in a petal to a specific end point. I'm just kind of pulling it out to make that line, that harshness of the line disappear. So it's just like a little halo effect around the image. And I did that around the entirety of the image. And I'm just going to do a little bit there for the purposes of the video, but that's how I accomplished that shadow look around the main image there. Okay, so a couple last finishing touches. As you can see here, hopefully the camera's going to pick this up. Let me zoom out just a little bit now since I'm done demonstrating the coloring. I'm going to try to zoom out just a little bit. I think I'm making it worse. There we go. So I can show you this last part. Hopefully you can see there's, and I'm not talking about the sequins at the moment, there's gold splatter on the flowers and on the white part of the base around the flowers. And I want to show you how I did that really quickly. It's a super easy technique. I don't even know if you'd call it a technique. It's just something really easy to do. I used my Ganza, I think it's pronounced Ganzai Tambi, Starry Colors. It's a 6 set of watercolors, and this is the Starry Colors set, and they are a water-based pigment paint. So all that I did is I pulled over some scratch paper, and this is heavily used scratch paper, so I apologize for all the inking on it. Bring my paint over here. I have a slate, a cup that has just a little bit of water in it, and a very cheap paintbrush. So I have my paintbrush. It's very wet because it's been sitting in this cup of water. I'm going to use some yellow gold, and you have to really get this wet for it to work, or to get the pigment kind of ready to go. So I get this very wet. Now you can hopefully see it's very wet. So now I've got a lot of paint on the end of my paintbrush. And now I'm going to take the paintbrush and hit it against my finger like so, and it's going to splatter that gold onto my image. Now, of course, this is not a finished image, so it looks kind of silly, but I just wanted to show you how that is done. And now you can see that there's really pretty gold speckles and splotches throughout the image, and it's just a super pretty, super simple technique. Now, I'm also going to be having several videos in the future where I'm going to actually be painting images with these. So you don't think that that's all that these, while this is an excellent technique, don't think that that's all that you can use these for. There are several really cool techniques I want to share with you using these particular paints. But for today, that's all I wanted to show you with that. So at the end of the day, this is the finished card. I finished coloring all of the flowers and the greenery using the techniques that I showed you and doing the coloring that we did on camera. Let it dry, did the shading around it, let that dry, did the inking with the watercolor pigment paint that I just showed you, let that dry. And then I adhered this to some gold foil paper that happens to be from Stampin' Up. And then you see this background here. I'm going to show you this in another video, but all that is, I used this gorgeous, 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 simply stunning background stamp from Simon Says Stamp. This is the Flora background stamp. I heat embossed it in white embossing powder, stamped it down, and then took some worn lipstick, Distress Oxide ink, and inked it all over. And this is what you get when you do that. This is the background that you get, and it's called an emboss resist technique. Again, I'm going to be doing a whole video on how I did this, so stay tuned for that if none of that made sense. But I used that for my background here, put a little bit of foil paper behind the pink background as well, adhered everything to a 4¼ by 5½ top folding note card, took one of these sentiments from the Adorable Mama Elephant Organic Bloom stamp set. This one says Spread Kindness. So I just stamped that in VersaFine black onyx ink and cut it out, put it here with some foam tape at the bottom, and then I added some sequins. The gold sequins are from Lucy's Warm Golden Glow, and the kind of bubbly ones are from Studio Katia, and they are called Clear Round Dewdrop Mix. And that completes my card, except for, of course, adding Wink of Stella all over those flowers to make them nice and shimmery. So I hope that you enjoyed this card, and that you got a little bit of information on how you can use these zig markers to create multiple colors in your coloring. It's so much fun. It is really just like watercoloring, but so much easier in my opinion. So anyway, I hope that you loved this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did like it, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel if you're not already a subscriber. And if you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. So thanks so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye-bye.